Sometimes the people who laugh the most during serious conversations are the ones feeling the most uncomfortable inside. Not because they don't care, not because they're insensitive, but because humor can become a reflex, psychological shield that activates before vulnerability even has a chance to appear. If you've ever laughed while talking about something painful, or smiled while explaining something that actually hurt you, you probably know exactly what this feels like. And most people never notice they're doing it. They'll joke while talking about stress, laugh while describing childhood experiences, turn awkward moments into comedy before anyone else can react. It looks harmless on the surface, but psychologically it often means something much deeper is happening underneath. Because for a lot of people, humor was never just humor. It became emotional protection. You can see this in small moments. Someone talks about being abandoned, then immediately laughs and says, "But it's fine." Someone gets embarrassed and instantly turns themselves into the joke before anyone else can. Someone starts opening up emotionally, then suddenly switches the tone completely. And the strange part is, many of them don't even realize they're avoiding vulnerability in real time. The laughter happens automatically, almost like the nervous system learned that seriousness feels dangerous. And when you look closely, this pattern usually starts much earlier than people think. A lot of emotionally self-protective humor comes from environments where emotions weren't handled safely. Maybe sadness made other people uncomfortable. Maybe anger caused conflict. Maybe vulnerability was ignored, mocked, or dismissed. So over time, the brain adapts. It learns that being lighthearted feels safer than being emotionally exposed. Humor becomes a social survival strategy. Not weakness, not manipulation, protection. Because if you can make people laugh, you stay in control of the emotional atmosphere. You can redirect tension before it lands on you. You can avoid awkward silence. You can keep people emotionally close without letting them too close. And that's where it gets interesting, because most people assume this behavior is about confidence. They think the funny person in serious situations is emotionally relaxed. But often the real reason is the opposite. The humor exists because the discomfort is too strong. The joke softens the emotional weight before anyone fully feels it. In psychology, people sometimes call this deflection. But in real life, it feels much more subtle than that. It can sound like, "Honestly, my childhood was kind of a disaster." Laughs. Or, "I probably need therapy at this point." Laughs. Or even, "Yeah, I'm used to people leaving." Laughs. The laughter arrives right after the truth. Almost like the mind quickly saying, "Let's not stay here too long." Because staying emotionally present can feel exposing, especially for people who learned early that emotions create unpredictability. And over time, this can shape identity in ways people rarely notice. Some people become the funny one in every environment they enter. The one who keeps conversations light. The one who makes tension disappear. The one who never seems deeply affected by anything. But internally, they may struggle to feel emotionally seen at all. Because when humor becomes automatic, people often stop recognizing when they're actually hurting. Even they start consuming their emotions through performance instead of presence. And sometimes, the people around them reinforce it without realizing. They reward the jokes. They respond better when things stay entertaining. So the person unconsciously learns, people connect with me more when I'm amusing than when I'm honest. That creates a strange emotional contradiction. You become socially accepted while still feeling emotionally hidden. And this pattern shows up in relationships too. Some people joke during arguments. Some laugh while apologizing. Some turn emotionally serious moments into sarcasm the second things feel intense. Not because they don't care, but because emotional exposure can feel physically uncomfortable. Their mind searches for relief, and humor provides instant emotional distance. Even in group settings, you'll notice this dynamic. When tension rises, there's often one person who immediately breaks it with a joke. Everyone laughs. The discomfort disappears. But psychologically, that moment reveals something important. Humor doesn't just create connection. Sometimes it prevents deeper connection from happening. Because laughter can either open emotion or replace it, and the difference matters. Now, of course, humor itself isn't unhealthy. In many cases, it's incredibly intelligent. It helps people survive difficult experiences. It creates social bonding. It reduces emotional overwhelm. Some people genuinely developed humor because it was the only emotional language that felt safe growing up. And honestly, that adaptation makes sense, especially in environments where emotional honesty felt risky. But the deeper pattern usually appears when someone can joke about everything, except speak about anything directly. That's when humor stops being expression and starts becoming armor. And here's something people rarely talk about. The individuals who laugh during serious conversations are often extremely emotionally aware. They notice tension quickly. They sense emotional shifts before others do. They can feel discomfort building in a room almost instantly, which is exactly why they rush to neutralize it. Sometimes before anyone even notices it exists. That's why this behavior often overlaps with people-pleasing tendencies too. Keeping things emotionally smooth becomes part of identity. Not creating emotional burden becomes part of identity, even if it means hiding parts of yourself in the process. And after years of doing this, seriousness itself can start feeling unnatural. Silence feels too exposed. Direct emotional honesty feels too heavy. So the mind automatically reaches for humor to regulate the moment, not consciously, conditioned. And once you start noticing this pattern, you see it everywhere. The friend who laughs while talking about burnout. The person who jokes while admitting they feel lonely. The one who smiles while explaining experiences that clearly hurt them. It was never random. It was adaptation. A learned emotional rhythm designed to create safety. And sometimes, the loudest laughter in serious moments is coming from the part of someone that never fully learned how to stay emotionally visible without fear. Once you see that, these moments start looking very different. Not awkward, not immature, human. Because behind a lot of humor is emotional intelligence, protection, discomfort, fear, sensitivity, and the quiet need to keep difficult emotions manageable. And maybe that's why these people are often misunderstood. Others only hear the joke. They never notice what arrived right before it. If this explains something you've noticed in yourself or other people, there's always more beneath the surface than behavior alone, because human behavior is rarely random. It's usually a pattern hiding a feeling.